Today, we will take a look at the so-called Sharpe ratio. This is an important metric for measuring risk-adjusted return. We will soon see what risk-adjusted return means and why it is often more meaningful than traditional return. Let's assume that stock A achieved a return of 34%, while stock B only yielded a return of 12%. At first glance, it seems that stock A was a much better choice than stock B. However, what is not considered here is the level of risk the investor took to achieve this return. For example, if stock A fluctuated much more than stock B during the same period, we can see that while the investor in stock A achieved a significantly higher return compared to stock B, they also took on much more risk. In portfolio theory, risk represents the degree of volatility, measured by standard deviation. The higher the standard deviation, that is, the more volatile the stock or portfolio, the greater the risk. The symbol for standard deviation is the Greek letter sigma. Since risk and return are always directly related, the higher the risk, the higher the potential return, and vice versa, the Sharpe ratio comes into play. This ratio incorporates the assumed risk when determining the return, leading to our risk-adjusted return. The formula for calculating it is simple and goes as follows. Sharpe ratio equals the return of our portfolio or individual stock minus the so-called risk-free return, that is, the return that can be achieved without risk, for example through government bonds, divided by the standard deviation of the portfolio or individual stock. The higher the Sharpe ratio, the better, as this indicates that the investor is achieving a higher return for each unit of risk. Now let's see how the two stocks perform when we factor in risk using the Sharpe ratio. We'll start with stock A. Our risk-free return is 1%, while the standard deviation is 45%. The return on the stock is 34%. Plugging this into the formula, we get Sharpe ratio equals 0.34 for our return minus 0.01 for the risk-free return divided by 0.45 for the standard deviation. So the Sharpe ratio comes out to 0.7. Now let's compare stock B. The risk-free return is again 1%, while the standard deviation is 10% and the return is 12%. Using the formula, we get Sharpe ratio equals 0.12 minus 0.01 divided by 0.1. This gives us a Sharpe ratio of 1.1. The Sharpe ratio of stock A is 0.7, while the Sharpe ratio of the lower yielding stock B is 1.1. When taking risk into account, stock B now outperforms stock A. This shows that return alone is not really meaningful, and risk should always be considered to ensure a fair comparison. We hope this video has helped you understand the topic of the Sharpe ratio. See you next time and have a good one.